Welcome to the session, The Challenge of Change, Sparking Innovation in the U.S. Workforce System. I am really quite proud to be a part of this session, to have an opportunity to host this conversation here today. We're really joined by an esteemed group of panelists that not only have come together for today's conversation, but have really teamed up to work together over the long haul to really tackle some of the most difficult challenges that we're facing in the realm of education and workforce development these days. So I'm very happy to welcome and introduce Anousheh Ansari, who is the CEO of the XPRIZE Foundation, Dr. Angela Jackson, who is a partner at New Profit, and our colleague Patrick Diamond, who's a manager of strategic partnerships at MIT Solve. We are still waiting on Patrick to join. I will have to remark, Anousheh, that I was reading through Patrick's bio in preparation for the panel, and in his bio, he remarks that he is a longtime fan of Carl Sagan. So I have to make sure that you two follow up and talk talk a little bit about some of his interest in space and some of your real-time experiences up there in the great unknown. I really am going to aim towards keeping today's session highly conversational. Our panelists here that have gathered are really full of a lot of perspective around what it takes to drive innovation and change in the world of education, workforce development, social sector, philanthropy, technology, you name it. So we're going to really dig into trying to understand these unique perspectives of each of the organizations that are coming to the virtual table here today to share some of their hopes and ambitions for the future. And we'll make sure we leave plenty of time for Q&A towards the end of this conversation to hear from audience members about any questions they might have about the work we're doing together, or the work they might have for each one of the panelists, personally and professionally. I want to also mention that this is a really kind of exciting thing for me to be reflecting on. I attended my first ASU GSV conference probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I actually had the opportunity to bring with me a delegation of about a dozen executive directors of workforce boards from around the country, really with the specific goal of having an opportunity to see all the amazing things and all the amazing ideas that entrepreneurs, investors, and technologists were up to in the world of education, technology, and job tech at the initial ASU GSV Summit, and it's a great chance here to now have a challenge at hand that we're teaming up together to really bring together the best of the best in traditional workforce development, working with partners in the U.S. workforce system, and really the best and brightest that we can from philanthropy and from technology as well. So I will kind of prompt today's conversation with a video that's brought to us by XPRIZE. This video will give the audience a little bit of context about really what the idea of a challenge is, and why it's such an interesting and critical mechanism for driving change and innovation, both in the private and the public sector.
The XPRIZE Foundation runs incredible large-scale competitions around the world that set very clear, measurable, objective goals.
Competitions and prizes can actually bring innovation to solve not just any problem, but really big, challenging problem.
We don't care who you are or where you come from. If you're able to accomplish this task, win.
You're leveraging the genius of folks from all over the world. the tinkers, the entrepreneurs, the engineers.
We're looking for something that is audacious and achievable.
Problems that the markets have failed to solve.
I think we're about setting a high bar. We want to set a goal for people that's inspiring. It's also hard.
So no matter what challenge you want to solve, join us on this journey. Just don't be satisfied doing nothing.
So Anousheh, the kind of first question at hand is
256 million children who are out of school in very
it's coming your direction. I really want you to reflect on your time at XPRIZE. I found it fascinating that the Ansari Prize was actually the first challenge that the XPRIZE Foundation initially ran, and it's actually what sparked a lot of the commercialization of kind of our next frontier around space exploration. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you understand a challenge to be, and what are some of the elements that make a challenge so important to driving innovation, particularly in the public sector?
Sure. I love that video because it's sort of in a very condensed time explains a lot about XPRIZE Foundation and what we do here. But my history and my involvement started in early days. As you mentioned, my family and I became the title sponsors of the first prize, which really inspired us to expand beyond just space, because originally the foundation was formed by Peter Diamandis, the founder, to just address the issue of opening up the space market to become privatized in a way and get an industry going. So all of us who are children of the Apollo era who wanted to go to space have an opportunity to do so, and the benefits that space and space technology brings. So that's the genesis of it. But my background is I'm an engineer and entrepreneur, and when Peter approached me 20 years ago about this competition, it just sounded perfect to me, because as a child I grew up wanting to go to space and I couldn't find any way to fulfill that dream. And he approached me just at the opportune time when we had sold our company, and that allowed me to engage with him on the conversation of how we will make this happen. And the competition, which he got inspired by Ortiz Prize, which opened up the aviation industry. So competitions are not new. It's not something we invented. It's been there. Longitudinal prize is another one of the early versions of the prize that help navigation. So we saw this opportunity to reuse something that was not used recently and try to solve a big, challenging problem, a complex problem. So when the prize was launched and about 10 years that went on to the winning of the prize showed us that that $10 million, which was the prize, first brought in $100 million worth of investment. That was huge. That was a 10 times fold in investment in an area that no one even imagined investing or talked about. Go back to the late 1990s. Going to space was not like now with SpaceX. It was a crazy idea. If you're not NASA, what are you doing with space? So it was. It also provided that mind shift, that change is possible, that private sector can work with the government and create something really powerful together. So that mind shift was great. We did policy changes as part of that whole 10 years. We worked with FAA, and that resulted in creation of a new division at FAA that is now addressing all the commercial launch licenses and policies involved with that. So that was a big education and policy of the policymakers and the public that happened during that time. So the competition is not just about the technology. Technology is a huge part of it, and bringing the world the diverse world of individuals around the globe to actually come up with ideas and implement those ideas and do this in focus of winning a competition is what we are. It's at the heart of an XPRIZE competition. But all the ancillary benefit, the additional investment in the field, the awareness, the education, the policy changes are also added benefits. So as an entrepreneur, I looked at it and I saw that an investment can be have a very reduced risk through a competition, because you get to the final place of your goal, and that's the only time you pay. But as an entrepreneur, you usually have to start investing from the beginning, hire people, wait 5 years, and maybe you will end up with what you hope for or not. But here you don't have to pay anything, and you wait until the end, until the competition is won, and that's when you pay. So it reduced risk, brought in other investment, it brought in innovation, it brought in attention and policy changes. So all the ingredients inside one platform, and that's what attracted me to it. And once we saw that it works, we started expanding into other areas and trying to address other complex global issues.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Anousheh. And now, Angela, I'd be interested, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about the Future of Work Grand Challenge in a moment. But Angela, reflecting on your time as an investor and as an entrepreneur, kind of what makes this concept of a challenge really so interesting to you and to New Profit, and what's kind of caused you to put yourself at the helm of really trying to set a grand challenge for how we really rethink upskilling and training and preparing people for the future of work.
Well, first, I'm just really excited to be having this conversation today. I like eat and breathe this. But New Profit was founded like 20 years ago by Vanessa Kirsch. And at that time, she really wanted to fund entrepreneurs who were thinking about breaking down the barriers between people and opportunity. And what Anousheh said just really resonated with me about mindsets. And for us, it's thinking about who can be an entrepreneur. Where do ideas come from? What ideas are worth being funded? And so at New Profit, we have always been like super obsessed with funding the unlikely entrepreneur, making sure that we're funding people who have insights about a problem that maybe the mainstream has been missing. And I think as it relates to workforce, there have been some very complex and entrenched problems for years that we talk about, even pre-COVID, that we read about. So the idea that we could use a challenge to, one, come up with ideas, and ideas are important, but the second thing about a challenge is that it's paying based on outcomes. So, we'll get into this, but it's how many people can we place into jobs? So that's real material change that we're looking at there. And for me, that's exciting because we're changing people's lives through this challenge.
I will say I think we had Patrick for a moment who, dare I say, entered at the exact wrong time, or exact right time, and exited at the exact wrong time. Patrick, we're really just taking an opportunity here to reflect on the concept of a challenge in general. We really haven't dug into the specifics of the MIT Solve Challenge, the XPRIZE Challenge, or how we're kind of combining forces on these things. So I'd really like to just tap you for a little bit of perspective on, why does MIT Solve approach this work the way it does, running these kinds of competitions, trying to source new tools, new technologies, and new ideas in the way that you do?
Yeah, and hopefully you can hear me. I'll continue speaking unless I hear otherwise. Great. Apologies for the technical difficulties. It's always embarrassing to have issues when I'm representing MIT, but we'll go with it. Here we go. Nice to see you again, Anousheh, and Angela as well. When we think about open innovation and really crowdsourcing solutions to some of the world's biggest challenges, which is what we do at MIT Solve, we really do believe that talent and ingenuity exist everywhere in the world, and in this case, across the United States. It's just a matter of trying to reach and support early stage entrepreneurs with potentially breakthrough ideas that could really shape and reshape the way that we approach workforce issues and and challenges beyond this as well. So we're always looking for ways to not only reach people through traditional, marketing and whatnot, but really to help applicants help themselves as they go through our application process too. And we've done that within the context of this challenge through virtual workshops and a lot of other activities to really to help entrepreneurs reach their potential within the context of the challenge.
And I'd just like to add, I just think, Patrick, one thing that I appreciate about both challenges is their commitment to the entrepreneurs. So if people are coming in with an idea, the wraparound supports that they get both from XPRIZE and MIT Solves, from mentorship to understanding your business model to thinking about scale to even matchmaking, I think is really unprecedented. So that really allows anyone who's sitting on their couch who has an idea to participate.
That's great. Thanks, Angela. Patrick, I'm gonna try and make up for your technological snafu by running another video, seeing if we can do it successfully. This second video will share a little bit more detail about the XPRIZE Rapid Reskilling Challenge, which again we'll have Anousheh and Angela explain some of the details around that, and then have Patrick also reflect on where there are some opportunities that were identified to actually complement the goals of the XPRIZE challenge with the Reimagining Pathways challenge that the MIT Solve team has up and running again. So I'm going to switch over to video, and I'll see everybody back in about 2 or 3 minutes.
The fourth industrial revolution spells a time of great unease and uncertainty.
Most people are going to have to become lifelong learners.
There are jobs out there. It's going to require a shift.
The coronavirus pandemic has left millions of Americans out of work.
Josh, I'll give you training on video optimization next time. A lot of Zoom.
Were we able to even see or hear the video at all?
Yeah, choppy, but yes.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll make sure the team drops both of the links into the chat. It's one of the benefits of all being behind our computers. You can fire up another tab and watch the video at your own leisure. So, Anousheh, I think one of the things I really want to hear from you is why are you so excited about focusing on reskilling as kind of the next challenge for XPRIZE. I said to you when we last talked, I mean, you've been to space, and now you're coming around to be part of this team who's really trying to figure out, how to solve some of the really difficult issues in workforce development and job training that we faced for years. So tell me a little bit about just what's motivating you, and what are some of your hopes for what this challenge can accomplish?
Sure. First of all, a lot of skilled people made it possible for me to go to space. So it's we all need to work together on this. But the important thing for me is, and the conversation with new profits has been going on for a long time, really looking at the future of work and how our societies are evolving, how technology is impacting the way we live, work, and do everything around this society we live in. And trying to look into the future and understand what are some of the changes that will happen that will impact different parts of the society differently, and how can we make sure that a future of abundance for all, which is at the heart of what we do at XPRIZE, is available to everyone, and we equip people and take them on this journey of understanding what the future will look like, and prepare our societies for the change that is coming. As AI, machine learning, and robotics, automation, all of these are changing the work landscape and disproportionately impacting people. So we had this plan, and we were in conversations already for a while to figure out how we can best address this challenge. And then the pandemic happened, and of course we saw how all these issues are sort of impacting millions of people, and that we felt compelled that we need to do something now and not wait too long. And we were lucky that a new profit was on the same page and wanted to work with us to launch this challenge as soon as possible and address the problems of today, which is at the heart of this competition around skills, the workforce boards, and how we can really equip people very quickly, much faster than what has been done before, with the skills they need to be placed in jobs that are still here and are going to grow in the future, and make sure that those disadvantaged communities that may not have access to the tools or knowledge or ways to get these skills are at the center of this competition. So I have been very fortunate and lucky to have had a good education. I came from Iran, and where my opportunities was limited, and I was lucky that I was here in the United States as a student and went to university and was able to build a career and be able to do everything that I've done. But it started with getting those skills and education that I needed to find my first job, because when we came here, I was an immigrant, didn't have any money, and I had a lot of hopes and dreams, but didn't know how I would accomplish it. So I think it's important to provide everyone, every child, every young person, every individual with that same opportunity, that if they want to change their lives, improve their lives, to give them the tools and skills to do it. And we live in a day and age which information is plenty. We have ways of communicating with people. We have tools, and we've democratized a lot of these tools at very low cost. There is no reason we can't extend that to a larger portion of the society and make sure everyone benefits from it equally. So that's at the heart of why I'm so happy and excited about it. And the fact that we could do something quickly and now to address problems now, it's also very important.
Thanks, Anousheh. Patrick, I will ask you to share a little bit of perspective on the challenge that MIT Solve is running. Some of the opportunity that you see is complementary to what's going on with the XPRIZE challenge, where there might be some differences. And then Angela, I'm going to turn to you to talk about how you've masterminded it all to kind of come together under the banner of a single grand challenge that we're now all deeply committed to. So Patrick, if you don't mind sharing some of your thoughts with us.
Sure. Well, I don't think it's an understatement to say that we're meeting an unprecedented moment in history, with maybe an unprecedented partnership of kind of the heavy hitters of the open innovation and philanthropic space. So We're all learning from each other as we go forward, and we have different approaches in how we're doing it, but it's all under this umbrella, as you mentioned, the Future Work Grand Challenge. Specific to the MIT Solve Challenge, it's named the Reimagining Pathways to Employment in the U.S. Challenge. And it is a bit more broadly defined than what Anousheh just mentioned that the XPRIZE challenge is focused on. And what I mean by that is we are attempting to find innovators from anywhere across the country that are looking at the challenges that our US workforce faces and workers face, but with more of an agnostic lens about how we would necessarily address the challenges. So we have some ideas of what we're looking for and what we expect. We're looking to support innovators who drive resources to really underinvested and disinvested communities, especially communities of Black, Indigenous, and Latinx communities. And especially we believe that the innovators in those communities are probably best positioned to support and move the needle on some of these issues that their communities are facing. In terms of approaches, we're looking for innovators who can do things from making high quality, affordable learning more accessible and flexible, especially as people are transitioning between jobs or even being laid off or something like that. And then we're also looking for new pathways. So that's in the name of the challenge, but we're looking to help people, workers, really navigate this very difficult and complex situation that we're in. How can they access careers, jobs, and that have upward mobility, good wages, that give them a path forward as well. And then lastly, I'll mention that we have a focus on employers too, because we know and we hear from employers that they have trouble accessing talent despite knowing that it exists. So we expect to see innovations that attempt to do that matchmaking that Angela mentioned earlier.
So Angela, I want to turn to you and tell us a little bit about really what New Profit is focused on as we bring these two challenges together. As we begin to look out for opportunities to actually put some of these great tools and technologies coming through the two challenges to use. What are some of your hopes for the challenge here, the grand challenge in the near and in the long term?
Yeah, so first, as Patrick mentioned, this is an unprecedented collaboration. And the reason why we, New Profit, wanted to collaborate is that, with the number of people that are unemployed, we know that it's not going to be one company or one foundation or one entity that solves this problem. At this point, we need radical collaboration. And so when we thought about the Future Work Grand Challenge, we thought, what needs to be true for a person to actually find employment for the future? We know that one part of that is about accessing the skills of the future, but we also know another part of it is around the wraparound supports. And so we thought, if we can bring the people who are best at, surfacing accelerated learning programs and people who are surfacing the best programs that help with wraparound supports like skills assessment, career navigation, that we could holistically help and work beside someone who's seeking employment, especially with people who have lots of questions around career transitions. What are they going to do next? We know a lot of the jobs that people had before that we thought were future-proof in hospitality, tourism, restaurants, they're gone. And so people at home now are thinking, well, what is next for me? And with this Future Work Grand Challenge, with the partnership with XPRIZE and MIT, in working in communities, we're going to be able to come up with some solutions to help people think through that. And if need be, upskill and offer some other supports to help place them in work.
That's great. Thanks, Angela. And I am going to take the opportunity now to turn the tables on you a little bit. I want to hear from you. What have you learned about the U.S. workforce system over the course of the last year or two? You've proven yourself to be such an advocate for the potential of what the public workforce system can do, working with workforce boards, and really trying to focus on modernizing American job centers. 2,500 centers across the country that serve 20 million people a year, at least. Why have you kind of come around to really believing that, that this system is capable of innovating and can be the kind of proving ground we need to help connect learners and workers with new and better solutions?
Yeah, so similar to Anousheh, I grew up, with a working class family. I tell people, my grandfather worked at a factory and my grandmother worked as a nurse's aide, but through higher education, I was able to get my undergraduate degree, advanced degree, and go on to really attain the what we call future skills. We know that that's not happening today. And when I started this journey with New Profit 2 years ago, we were talking about the future of work. It was really an upmarket conversation. It was about how do you get middle executives to higher wage jobs. And when I looked at the research said, actually, people are going to be disproportionately impacted by automation based along the lines of race and their socioeconomic background. So I thought, as a philanthropy, what could we do to help? And I have to tell you, the first thing I gravitated to was training. I thought people just need more training. And I will have to just give credit to a lot of my colleagues who are in the state of Massachusetts, who work for the state government, who shared with me pre-COVID. They were like, there's lots of training, but there's not a lot of pathways to mobility. And so training is just one piece of the puzzle. So when I think about what I've learned over these last 2 years, and a colleague told me, and I'm going to keep using this, she goes, you can't train your way to equity. Like, training is not a silver bullet. You need to meet people where they are. Training's one piece. You need to have wraparound supports. And then you need to really take them into the community. And this is why we begin to think about workforce boards and job centers. There's lots of training programs that are on the internet. But if you think about it from a job seeker's perspective, how do you know which ones are good? How do you know where you should invest your time? And so what we thought we could do with this challenge is that, to date, we've had several hundred people who have expressed interest in applying for both challenges. We could help validate which technologies actually work. So in this time of need, we can actually work as a guide and give people, as a tool, and give people useful information about what works and what works for who and what context. And so that led us to really think about a regional strategy to work with workforce boards and job centers in 5 different local communities.
Thanks, Angela. And Patrick, I'm gonna turn to you and ask the same thing. I know that for MIT Solve, you're certainly well seasoned in running these kinds of competitions in the past, but as I understand it, for the most part, your partners have typically been working with employers or with companies. And this will be the first time that you're really exploring this chance to partner with the workforce system, certainly, but I think, as I understand it, even government and quasi-government as a deployment mechanism. Can you just share with us a little bit about what your perspective is on what it might be like to partner with the workforce system and some of the potential that MIT Solve sees here in working with a new market to expand tools and technology access to many millions of workers that unfortunately are often iced out of those opportunities?
Yeah, I love that question. In the last 3 years, Solve has had a few public sector partners, but they've mostly been in other countries since we focus globally. I think this is one of the first times that we're going to be working with more public sector entities, so mainly the workforce development boards that'll be selected as partners on this challenge. And I think Solve is going to learn a lot in this process. We're always, adapting and trying to meet the moment as well. But I think there's going to be a lot of learning on our innovators side, and they are going to have their plans for what they're trying to do, how they're trying to affect change. And then through this challenge, we are going to connect them with on-the-ground users, is one way of looking at it in kind of the tech speak, to pilot their work, to give them some funding to be able to take that risk, honestly, and to hopefully improve their products with a lot of support from each of the organizations that's here, as well as all the other partners who are involved with each of our challenges. So I think, this work is about retraining. It's learning new skills, learning new approaches, and taking some risks. And we're asking our innovators to do that, and we are all doing that as well by going about it the way we're doing it. So hopefully we're doing some leading by example in this process, but I'm very confident that the innovators that we select are going to really aim high in the change that they're trying to affect. And I hope that's the case moving forward.
Thanks, Patrick. So Anousheh, I want to turn to you and just kind of ask you generally, especially with what you've heard Angela, Patrick, and myself explain around some of the excitement and opportunities that we see here. What are some of the lessons that you've learned and that XPRIZE has learned over the organization's esteemed history in running these kinds of competitions that you think we need to be aware of, or I might even say for the many entrepreneurs and technologists that are on the line, what are some of the things that they might need to be thinking about?
Sure. So one of the main lessons I've learned from even the first competition, and it has manifested in every competition we ran, that it is a competition, but we call it really a co-opetition, because what we found is that the teams that registered for these competitions, ultimately they are passionate about solving the problem. So it's not just about winning the money, it's really about solving the problem, and that's at the core of it. So when we start getting to points where the semi-finalists are selected and some teams move forward and some stay back, we facilitate ourselves, and we see a lot of teams sort of combining people who see the one has certain strength in one area and maybe there is talent in the other teams that helps them. And we facilitate this interaction so the teams can become stronger together. So that's one thing that I've seen and learned, that it's very important. And I think the other part of on the other side of this competitions, we have a lot of amazing teams. We really challenge them with audacious goals that they need to do. We leave them alone to come up with their own ways. And we see people from, really every different field, people who are not experts in this area, people who may not have ever worked in this area, basically come up and make it all the way to the end and sometimes win. I love telling the story of our junior high school team that won the $800,000 NOAA challenge last year for our Ocean XPRIZE, or the team that was made of a dentist who went to see his tattoo artist and started talking about our oil cleanup competition and ended up making it all the way to the finals. And I have tons of these types of stories. So if you're passionate about this problem, if you think it's an important problem that you want to do something about solving it, that's the first step you need. And then you can start talking to people. A lot of resources available through us, New Profit, MIT, and all of our partners. And we can help match you. You can be part of another team. But the important thing is take action, do something about solving it. And that's the biggest, asset you will have in making it all the way to the finals and hopefully winning the competition. But that's a lesson that I've seen, and it repeats itself every competition.
That's great. Thank you. I do have an interesting question here that surfaced from an audience member. And I have a feeling all three of you are going to jump at this one, but someone out in the audience is interested to hear everyone's thoughts on how to prepare people to be more entrepreneurial. And at the root of this question is actually around how do we prepare people and equip people for work that is increasingly kind of more complex and flexible. Angela, you and I have had these conversations, right? The workforce system was very much designed in an era where there was a very clear concept of a job seeker, a job vacancy, and a job placement. In the world we're living in now, the way we interact with work, the way we interact with learning is much more fluid. So I'll kind of just throw it to anybody who wants to take a crack at that. But do you think that's kind of a challenge that we'll have an opportunity to confront through the course of our work together?
Sure, maybe I'll start, and I hope everyone jumps in. As I mentioned, a lot of our work is focused on the future of work and how work itself and the definition of work is evolving. So these are really good questions. Let me maybe start with the entrepreneurship aspect. I think entrepreneurship starts with a mindset. In order to succeed as an entrepreneur, you have to have the mindset of being able to solve big problems. You have to believe in it, because if you don't have that positive, hopeful outlook and confidence in yourself, your chances of success is very low. A lot of the different parts of the community who have, especially now, been impacted, they lack self-confidence. They lack those types of tools they need to be successful. So helping them to put their mind in a state that will give them that energy inside to go after solving a big problem, I think it's very, very important and foremost. As someone who started from zero and was able to get through a lot of big challenges to get where I am, the first thing that I think I attribute to my success, of course, luck is always a part of it, but it's not the most important thing or the only thing. It is you putting your mind in solving something, being resilient, being really hopeful in when you face challenges, and knowing that you can be resourceful in finding the help that you need to get through that. I can comment on the gig economy jobs, but I think maybe Angela or Patrick can speak to that even better, and I'm happy to jump in.
States context, like we have no shortage of entrepreneurs, right? If you think there's over 30 million small businesses, I think what we have a dearth in is like when we're thinking about entrepreneurs who are solving a social mission and who thinks that they can afford to do that. So we need more people from the communities who are experiencing the problems to feel like they're empowered, right, through socially to actually solve some of these problems. So I think we want to spread that. I think there's a lot of ingenuity and entrepreneurship in these communities, like far more than we could probably tap into. It's just a matter of activating it around some of these social problems.
Thanks, Angela. Patrick, I'll let you answer that question, but I'll also ask you, kind of on behalf of all the partners here. I'm seeing that there's a lot of excitement in the chat. I've applied. I'm excited. Can you tell us a little bit from your view, what's going to make an application stand out for those on the line that might be listening in and are considering this? Why should an entrepreneur take their time to go through the application process here? Time's so valuable. What's going to make it worth it to participate in this?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I'll just give some basically tips to entrepreneurs of some things that we practice at MIT Solve that we think are tried and true best practices for how to be a social entrepreneur. And we actually have an open course on the edX platform that we've built this entire course to help people think through exactly what it means to be a social entrepreneur. So I'll put a plug in there. But we think some of the things that matter are focusing on a problem that's close to you. So don't think about someone else. Don't think about someone far off in another country. What's a problem that you're facing in your community, and how might that relate to others somewhere else? So start at home. Do the hard work of laying out what a theory of change might look like. It's a great tool to actually logically think about how you will affect a specific change. There's lots of open tools out there to help you think through exactly how to do that. Build a team. You can't solve this alone. You may think you can, but you won't succeed. So you need to build a team and bring on people who are unlikely. Don't just think of, what everyone else has done. Some of the most breakthrough innovations and approaches to some of the biggest problems in the world have come from unlikely partners. So think about that. And then probably the most important thing is to test quickly and often, because you may have the best plan in the world and go out to set it in motion and you'll fail immediately. So constantly be testing your innovation and be willing to tweak it as you go. we're doing that with this challenge, and I hope that all the innovators are too.
Cool.
But your question about kind of what innovators should kind of consider as they apply and why take the time to apply. There's a required section of our application that actually doesn't take too long to answer, but we hope that people will complete the rest of it. The process of going through answering some of these tough questions really does mirror some of the tools and approaches that I just mentioned, picking a user, picking a community, outcome measures, and how you'll affect change. So even if you're not selected to this challenge, you'll at the outset of at the kind of tail end of this process, you'll have a stronger idea of what you're trying to do, and maybe you'll be ready to apply to the next challenge that we have on the future of work too.
Thanks, Patrick. And I'm keenly aware of the time. I think we are going to have to do a pretty aggressive wrap up here. I'd like to thank the panelists for joining us. We'll be seeing a lot more of each other. I will also encourage everyone on the line to visit our respective websites. In particular, Angela and I have been penning some blogs and doing some stuff together, and we actually just released some more details about the terms of JFF's partnership, really working with MIT Solve, XPRIZE, and New Profit to help make the appropriate matches and find workforce development boards and regions that are really activated and share a common cause around this challenge. So I encourage you to continue to follow along. Apply for the challenges respectively as they fit the opportunities in front of you. We look forward to seeing you around the virtual ASU GSV Summit over the course of the next couple of days. Anousheh, Angela, Patrick, thank you again so much, and it's so exciting to be here with you today. And I look forward to many more interesting conversations and challenges ahead.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.